The day I first sensed something sinister brewing in our quiet little corner of Willow Creek was unseasonably warm for late March. I'd just come off a grueling 12-hour shift at St. Mary's Hospital, my scrub still clinging to me with the faint scent of antiseptic, my mind drifting to the thought of surprising my wife, Emily, by joining her in the backyard. She'd turned that patch of earth into her personal Eden, a riot of green VY nests and blooming flowers that softened the edges of our otherwise ordinary life. But as I trudged up the driveway, my sneakers scuffing the concrete, I stopped dead. There was a garish orange notice taped to our front door, flapping like a wounded bird in the breeze. The words hit me like a slap. Immediate action required. My hands trembled as I ripped it down, the paper crinkling under my grip. Unapproved landscaping modifications detected in backyard space. Security will conduct regular inspections to ensure compliance. The signature at the bottom sprawled across the page in looping, arrogant cursive. Margaret Hensley, HOA president. I stood there, the notice dangling from my fingers, a cold unease snaking through me. It wasn't just the formality of it, Hoff, that was jarring enough in a neighborhood where people still left their doors unlocked. It was the tone. Overbearing. Threatening. Security? For a garden? Emily and I had chosen Willow Creek 3 years ago for its promise of simplicity. The kind of place where Mrs. Carter across the street waved from her porch swing, where Tom and Lisa down the block brought us a casserole the day we moved in. This didn't fit. Inside, Emily was at the sink, scrubbing soil from her hands, humming a tune I vaguely recognized from her college days. She was an environmental consultant, her days spent wrestling with regulations and corporate egos, and that garden was her rebellion against it all. When I handed her the notice, her humming stopped mid-note. Her hazel eyes narrowed as she scanned the text, her lips pressing into a thin line. "This is nonsense," she muttered, already reaching for a laptop. She pulled up the HOA bylaws, her fingers flying across the keys with the precision of someone who'd spent years dissecting legal fine print. "Here," she said, jabbing a finger at the screen. Article 9, Section 3. Vegetable gardens permitted in backyards with adequate drainage. Ours is textbook. We've broken no rules. Before we could dig deeper, the doorbell chimed a sharp, insistent sound that made my pulse jump. Through the peephole, I saw Margaret Hensley herself, clad in a pristine blazer and skirt, her platinum hair pulled into a tight bun. She clutched a tablet like it was a scepter, her manicured nails tapping an impatient rhythm against its edge. I opened the door, and she didn't bother with a greeting. "I assume you received my notice," she said, her voice clipped, her gray eyes flicking past me into our home. "We did," I replied, keeping my tone even despite the heat rising in my chest. "We'd like to know what prompted it. Which rule did we break?" Her smile was a razor's edge. "Our enhanced security team will begin documenting violations tomorrow. I suggest you comply quickly to avoid escalation." She turned on her heel, her stilettos clicking down the walkway, but not before I caught a glimpse of her tablet Casio logo embossed on it, sharp and official-looking, like something you'd see on a government seal. It didn't belong on an HOA gadget. Back inside, Emily was already cross-referencing neighborhood maps with old meeting minutes. "There's nothing here," she whispered, her voice tight with disbelief. "No vote to hire security. No approval from a board. This is all her." The next morning, I was pouring coffee when I saw them through the kitchen window, two men in black polos stamped with HOA security, MOVYing through our yard like they owned it. They snapped photos of Emily's tomato plants with military precision, their tactical belts bristling with gear that looked too heavy for garden patrol. I stepped onto the porch, my mug still in hand. "Can I help you?" I called, keeping my voice steady. The taller one turned, his hand brushing what looked like a taser. "We have police authority within this community," he said, flashing a badge so quickly I barely registered it. "Documenting violations under HOA Code 12. I pulled out my phone and hit record. "I'd like to see your credentials and the documentation granting you police authority." The shorter one stepped forward, his jaw clenched, but the taller one waved him off. They didn't answer. Just then, Margaret appeared, striding across our lawn in a tracksuit that screamed money, an orange notice in her hand. "These officers report to the executive board," she snapped, her eyes glinting with something feral. "That means they report to me." Across the street, I caught Mrs. Carter peering through her curtains. Our eyes met, and she vanished, but not before I saw the fear etched into her face. That afternoon, I dug into state laws on private security. Nothing added up. Their uniforms, their weapons, that logothete need permits, licenses, certifications. I found none. Emily watched my footage, her brow furrowing. "That's not real security gear," she said. "The badges are wrong, too flimsy. It's a costume." By evening, I'd started a group chat with neighbors I trusted: Tom, Lisa, the Patels. The stories flooded in. Yin VY Ted backyard VY sits. Photos of kids playing, threats over minor infractions like a car wash in a driveway. Then my phone buzzed with a text from Margaret. "Your surveillance of our security team, VY OLATS, HOA policy. Expect enforcement action tomorrow." That night, Emily pored over statutes about impersonating law enforcement, her hands trembling as she typed. "If they're pretending to be cops," she whispered, "what else are they capable of?" I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the street, the hum of our security cameras a faint comfort. Something was coming. I could feel it in my bones. It hit the next day. My phone rang during a staff meeting at the hospital. Emily, her voice a ragged whisper. "They're here. 3 of them. In our backyard." I bolted, Leah VY Ing charts scattered on the table, my heart hammering as I tore through traffic. Over the phone, I heard barking orders. "Ma'am, exit the garden now." Emily's voice shook but held firm. "Show me your badges, real ones." A crackle of static. Unit 2, subject non-compliant. Requesting K-9 backup. Then Margaret's voice, icy and smug. "Your garden VY OLAT's aesthetic guidelines. My team has full authority to remove it." I swerved through lanes, the speedometer climbing. "Call 911, I shouted. "Those aren't cops." She fired back at Margaret. "These are zucchinis, not a threat." Say that again for the camera. Gravel crunched, plants ripped from the earth, and Thena growl. Deep guttural, chilling. I was a block away when I saw the black SUV, with K-9 markings screech, to a halt. Behind me, sirens wailed real ones. I texted my brother, Jake, a county deputy, on my way out the door. He hadn't hesitated. I skidded into the driveway, tires screaming, and there she was, Emily, backed against the door, dirt streaked and defiant, her garden gloves still on. 3 men in tactical gear loomed over her. A German shepherd snarling on a leash held by a kid who looked barely 20. Margaret stood off to the side, scribbling on a clipboard like she was grading a performance. I leapt out, hands up to show I wasn't a threat. "Stay in your vehicle," the tallest one barked, his badge gleaming too brightly fake. Margaret's grin widened. "Your wife's interfering with official operations. We've documented 20 violations, including assault, on our officers." I hit record again. "Assault?" She's standing on her own porch. "Where's your authority for this?" "Show me the bylaws." The kid with the dog shifted nervously, sweat beading on his forehead. Emily angled her phone subtly, capturing it all. Margaret's composure cracked, her voice rising. "Remove the unauthorized plants, or we'll enforce it ourselves." The dog barked, lunging just enough to make Emily flinch. Its vest read POLICA lie that could land them all in federal prison. "Margaret," I said, slow and deliberate, "impersonating law enforcement is a felony. Those badges, that vest, each one's a charge." The men faltered, their confidence splintering. I tossed Emily my wallet. "Get Jake's card." Margaret's face twisted. "Detain them," she shrieked, her clipboard clattering to the ground. The men hesitated, hands hovering near their belts, but then the sirens grew deafening. Jake's cruiser led a convoy 4 cars, lights blazing. He stepped out, badge gleaming, voice cutting through the chaos. "Margaret Hensley, explain why you've got unlicensed personnel terrorizing my family." Her bravado evaporated. "Who can explain?" she stammered, hands raised. Jake's eyes were steel. "You'll explain at the station. You three, those badges are federal crimes." His deputies swarmed, cuffing the imposters, disarming them with practiced ease. The dog whimpered, rolling over as a real K-9 unit approached. Neighbors emerged, phones out, recording the collapse of Margaret's reign. Emily gripped my hand, trembling but steady. "He didn't just bring backup," she whispered. "He brought the cavalry." The aftermath unfolded like a storm breaking. Jake's team found a treasure trove in Margaret's office: photos of neighbors at all hours, kids on swings, families at barbecues, timestamps stretching back months. Bank records showed she'd funneled due $180,000 monthly to a shell company, Neighborhood Watch LLC, dwarfing our HOA's due $1,500 security budget. Emily traced special assessment fees, thousands extorted from families like the Patels, fine due $4,000 for a non-compliant shed they'd built with permits. A training manual surfaced, pinned by Margaret, detailing how to intimidate residents into silence. Her handwriting marked troublemakers for extra scrutinious included. The fake captain, Greg Larson, was a disgraced ex-cop with a rap sheet of brutality. His K-9 was a rescue he'd trained to scare, not serve. The others were rejects too, hired for their willingness to bully. Then the FBI arrived, tying Margaret to a multi-state ring of HOA, scams, extortion, data sales, intimidation. She'd done this before, vanishing when the heat got too close. Not this time. Days later, our street transformed. The Patel's kids played catch, misses. Carter watered her roses, Tom fired up his grill. The old HOA office sat dark, taped off, but Emily had a VY shown, a community garden co-op. At the next meeting, she proposed a residents' Charterno surprise inspections. No fake enforcers, just neighbors with a voice. The applause was thunderous, raw, real. We'd uncovered rot, but we'd also found each other. As I watched Emily that night, drafting plans under the kitchen light, I knew we'd built something stronger than Margaret could ever tear down a community worth fighting for. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.